From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm John Kennedy. Israeli leaders are harshly criticizing an expected decision by the U.S. to impose sanctions on a unit of ultra-Orthodox soldiers in the Israeli military. The decision is expected as soon as Monday and would mark the first time the U.S. has ever imposed sanctions on a unit inside the Israeli military. It also furthers the strained relationship between the two allies that have grown increasingly more tense during Israel's war in Gaza. Israeli leaders condemned the decision as unfair, especially at a time when Israel is at war, vowing to oppose it. A man accused of fatally running over a Toronto police officer has been found not guilty. Umar Zamir pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder in the death of Detective Constable Jeffrey Northrup. The officer died on July 2, 2021, after he was hit by a vehicle in an underground parking garage at Toronto City Hall. Zamir spoke to reporters outside of the courthouse today after the verdict was announced.
I never meant any of this to happen. I am sorry for what had happened, but I never meant any of this to happen to this day.
The facts that Zamir ran over Northrup and caused his death were not in dispute. The case itself centered on whether he meant to hit Northrup or knew that Northrup and his partner were plainclothes police officers. Unionized Airbus assembly plant workers north of Montreal have rejected a contract offer for the third time. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers says nearly 70% of its members voted against the agreement in principle. A union spokesman says negotiators thought they had reached a deal that would satisfy members, but the vote shows that wasn't the case. Earlier this month, workers massively rejected the second offer from the employer, with almost all of them voting in favor of strike action. Pope Francis has renewed his call for peace in the Middle East and Ukraine.
Speaking to a gathered audience in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, Francis said he was following the situation in the Middle East with concern and sorrow. He added, "I renew my appeal not to give in to the logic of claiming war. Let us instead prevail in the ways of dialogue and diplomacy that can do so much." The pontiff added his concerns for Ukraine, which is now in its third year of war. He told the audience, "Let us not forget the martyred Ukraine that suffers so much from the war." I'm Karen Chamas.
And the globe-trotting Associated Press correspondent who became one of America's longest-held hostages, Terry Anderson, has died. Anderson was snatched from a street in war-torn Lebanon in 1985 and was held for nearly 7 years. After returning to the U.S. in 1991, he gave public speeches, taught journalism, and at various times operated the Blues Bar, Cajun Restaurant, Horse Ranch, and Gourmet Restaurant. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, with a goal from the lead 58 seconds into the period and then another goal and an assist, the Florida Panthers beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2 in their NHL playoff series opener. The Winnipeg Jets will open their postseason tonight at home against Colorado's Avalanche, and Winnipeg finished off the regular season with 8 straight victories to be second in the Central Division, just behind the Dallas Stars as they lead the Western Conference. The Toronto Blue Jays have their sights set on a sweep in San Diego today. Toronto's won 2 straight against the Padres heading into the series finale. Chris Bassett will start on the mound for the Blue Jays, while San Diego will counter with Joe Musgrove. Jason Tatum notched his first career playoff triple-double with 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, leading the Boston Celtics past the Miami Heat 114-94 and opening their first-round playoff series. Derek White added 20 points and 4 assists for Boston, which finished with 6 players in double figures. From the Canadian Press, I'm John Kennedy.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.